Scratching was invented by a guy by the name of Grand Wizard Theodore. He was basically the first DJ to manipulate the turntable more than just mixing and blending music together. He came up with the idea of actually moving the vinyl back and forth and creating a sound. So instead of just letting the record play from beginning to end and then switching to the next turntable the way people like DJ Kool Herc and people like Africa Bambaataa did before him, Grand Wizard Theodore decided to actually do more with the turntable. So again, he came up with the idea of scratching, and scratching is basically moving the record back and forth to create a sound. Now, if I move the fader over to the left, so I can hear the music coming out of the left turntable, this is what you hear. Now, by moving the record back and forth, you're gonna get a sound, and that sound is called the scratch. And that was invented by Grand Wizard Theodore. Now, there's a lot of different forms of scratching. The slower you scratch, the lower the pitch of the sound. The faster you scratch, the higher the pitch. So, and in between there, you have a wide variety of different sounds. Now, after Grand Wizard Theodore invented the scratch, all these DJs started to learn from Theodore and started applying their take and their twist on how to perform a scratch. So where Theodore was doing this, Grandmaster Flash was doing this. Actually incorporating the use of the fader, which is the knob in the middle of the mixer, or the up and down, which is the level knobs. It allows you to start to create a wide variety of sounds. I could do a scratch like Grand Wizard Theodore, but once I incorporate the fader, it sounds like this. Now you just change the scratch. So this is the original scratch sound. Now I'm incorporating the use of the fader. You're simultaneously moving the fader and the vinyl to create a cutting sound. And it all stems from this. We call it the chop or the stab, and it's basically similar to what Mixmaster Ice did. I really liked, and it went a little something like this. Now with the chop, you could actually be a little more funky with it. For example. That's like chopping, or we could also call it cutting, because you're cutting the sound in and out by using the fader. Basically with fades, what you could do is by manipulating the level knob on the mixer, it spans from 0 to 10. 10 being the loudest that you could have the music, 0 being no music, it's quiet. If I'm scratching and simultaneously moving the fader up and down from 10 gradually to 0, it'll sound like I'm fading the music off. So it's like an echo effect. Now what I'm gonna do is create a delay effect or echo effect by scratching the record and at the same time gradually moving the fader from 10 to 7 to 5 to 3 to 0. This is what it sounds like. So now you're fading. So the best DJs understand the importance of incorporating all of the different scratch styles into one big musical expression. And that's basically all you're doing with scratching is the more aggressive temperament you may have, the more aggressive you may be actually scratching. If you're more of a cool, mellow, laid back kind of guy like myself, that personality is going to come across in a turntable. One cool scratch that I like doing is the drag scratch. And basically what you're doing is dragging the turntable slowly. So here's a backward drag. This is a forward drag. Backwards because you're starting from the end of the sound and pulling it back. Forward because you're starting from the beginning of the sound and pushing it forward. And those are drags. Another scratch is called the transformer scratch, and that was a scratch invented by a guy named Spin Bad, coming out of Philadelphia. And back in the 80s, there was this popular cartoon called the Transformers. And it's basically, for those that don't know, it's these robots that form into like these huge monsters or whatever. And as they're forming and changing, there's this sound that they would make. And Spin Bad figured out a way how to recreate the sound. And this is what the first Transform basically sounded like. That's slow. Then came a DJ from Philadelphia as well named Cash Money, and he saw Spin Bad and perfected that style by practicing over and over again and then incorporating more of his personality into what he learned from Spin Bad. And Cash came and the transformer went from sounding like this to like this. Cash Money added like a funkiness to the transformer, and that's really one of the main things that anyone that wants to learn how to DJ should take away from watching this video. And that is, it's okay to watch someone do something that you like, but always try to figure out a way to if you're gonna copy, figure out a way to make it better, figure out a way to incorporate your personality in that particular style that you saw a DJ perform. And that way you're always trying to keep the art progressing, and you're helping the art grow, because you don't want to just be a copycat. You don't want to just be someone who's replicating what they've seen already. You want to understand what a person is doing, learn it, then make it better. And that's what, you know, people like Grandmaster Flash, Mixmaster Ice, Cash Money all did from and it all stemmed from that one scratch that Grand Wizard Theodore did. Just moving the record back and forth gradually, it blossomed into all these different types of scratches. The chirp scratch was a scratch that was made real popular by Jazzy Jeff. And with the chirp scratch, what you're basically doing is scratching the record back and forth really fast. But you're incorporating the use of the fader, and you're moving it in sync with the vinyl. And this is what the chirp scratch sounds like. The flare scratch was invented by a guy by the name of DJ Flare, who lives out in the Bay Area. And, you know, he learned how to transform and chirp and, you know, all the different scratches that up until like the early 90s, us DJs were doing. And he figured out a way to take the transformer and break down the sounds that you make when you're doing the transformer, and almost cutting them into halves. And what I mean by that is where the transformer sounds like this, the flare sounds like this. So he's actually taken all of each sound in the transformer and breaking it into halves. And there's different flare scratches. There are 2-click flare scratches. There are 4-click flare scratches. There are orbits. That's what I was just doing, in orbit. And again, all these different types of flare scratches exist because different DJs started to learn what Flare invented, but then put their twist on it. And you know, you could flare with the up and down. DJ by the name of Qbert has made that real popular. Flaring with the phono, or we call it the up and down, and actually making the flare fade away or echo out, and then bringing it back in. Basically, with the crab scratch is you're taking your pinky, ring finger, middle finger, index finger, and you're stroking it, all 4 fingers across the fader, with your thumb on the opposite side of your 4 fingers, creating pressure. So this is what it looks like. Almost like a crab walking, you know? And Qbert really made the scratch very popular. And this is what it sounds like. What you're basically doing is dragging the vinyl back and forth and incorporating the use of the fader. Once again, you're stroking the fader first with your pinky, then your ring finger, then your middle finger, then your index. And you could start incorporating different ways of executing the crab scratch. I like to really play a lot with pitch. So in order to get your attention, I'll do something slow, then I'll do it fast. And creating those different textures is what allows me to come across the same way a musician does. When you see someone like Bob James playing the piano, he has a sheet of music in front of him with different notes. Some notes are more low in octave, other notes are high in octave. And I like to try to do that with the turntable. So here'll be this is an example of a low octave crab. And here's a high octave crab. Now if I combine them together, so that's an example of just combining all of the different ways you can move a turntable: slow, fast, and then doing little chirps in between, dragging the turntable. And again, you're just trying to create a wide variety of sounds, and you want your scale of sounds to be as unlimited as possible in order to hang with like all the best DJs that are out there. So that's a basic wrap up of just scratching, turntable manipulation, getting a sound, and just coaxing different rhythms out of it. Now, when you're scratching to a beat, the main thing is to be in sync with what the tempo is playing out of your speakers. So if you're scratching to a slow beat, most likely you're gonna have to scratch slow, unless you're an expert and you understand how to scratch double time. And that basically, scratching double time is you're multiplying the speed of your scratches, so that it's going twice the speed of the music that's playing out of the turntable. Since we're going through a lot of the basic steps of scratching, I'm just going to scratch to a regular 4/4 count. And that's basically being able to count 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2, 3, 4, and so on and so forth. I'm going to play a beat, and what we're going to do is a 4 count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2, 3, 4, 4, 2, 3, 4. That's a 4 count. And your scratches have to match the tempo of this 4 count beat. Here's an example. As you could tell, the scratches were in sync with the rhythm and tempo of the beat. If you're scratching too fast, it may not sound right. If you're scratching too slow, it's not going to sound right. You have to be quantized. You have to be perfect with your tempo and your ability to stay on beat. It's almost like an MC when he has a beat and he's rhyming on top of the beat. He's flowing. Everything he says falls on every kick, every snare, every hi-hat. And the worst MCs are the ones that can't keep up with the music, that don't know how to count bars. And that's basically what you're doing when you're scratching to a beat, is you're counting bars. You're scratching in sync with the rhythm and the tempo of the music that you're playing from your speakers. Same thing for a guitar player. If I was up here playing guitar, then I'd follow the tempo and rhythm of the music. If I was playing the piano, I'd follow the tempo and the rhythm of the music. It's the same idea with the turntable. You want to treat this like an instrument. You want to be able to scratch in a way that another musician will understand what you're trying to express. Once you've learned the basic scratches, like the baby scratch, which is the scratch that Grand Wizard Theodore invented. Once you learn different chop techniques, once you learn ways of making the sound echo and fade out, then you combine all these different styles and approaches to scratching, and you express your take on all of those different styles over music. Here's an example of combining different styles of scratching over a beat.